PodcastCoug Season 3, Episode 6.
You're listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, PodcastCoug.
Welcome back to the PodcastCoug Game Day Special. I am James Laurie in the PodcastCoug, and you are listening to the PodcastCoug, where all things are Cougar football, 30 minutes of Coug talk, where it's a Game Day edition. And we're going to talk about Bob Robertson, Game Day, and, of course, our upcoming game against Oregon. Welcome back again after a bye week for First Things First. Just one really quick few words. That's Washington State 56 and Oregon State 37. Next. Okay. Bye week last week. We were off, so it's been a couple of weeks. We're going to blow past Oregon State 56-37. Couple of announcements. Game Day, pandemonium on the Palouse, right? I mean, literally, and I was thinking about this the other day. They're going to bring in, who's they? City of Pullman, Washington State University, the university itself. Hey, let's do a makeshift. Let's pull together a contingency plan. We're bringing in special forces, probably security from all over, maybe even King County, of course, Spokane Valley, Tri-Cities, Lewiston, Clarkson. I mean, we're talking about probably, 12,000 additional folks for Game Day on Saturday morning. I mean, it could be 12,000, 15,000. It could be just crazy, right? For a 4:30 kickoff, great tailgate time. It's on Fox, but here we go with Game Day after all these years. We got the Cougar Prowl at 2:20. The university's saying 2:20. I'm saying 1:45 right outside the field house. We're talking about this is where the bus rolls up. At, I'd say, 1:45, 2 o'clock, bus rolls up. We got the team, the players, the coach, and Butch, and the cheerleaders and the band. And the band's going to perform, be at the field house. After that, all that morning for guys who are going over, I'm going to be there. My family's going to be there. We're going to be there arriving hopefully around 5 a.m., depending on traffic. 5 in the morning, that's crazy. I'm not really interested in being in the pit. They're going to take 500 guys in the pit. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So that Cougar Prowl, 1:45, 2 o'clock, right outside the field house. Remember the clear bag policy. Remember Highway 26 if you're coming from the west side. They're shutting down Highway 26 east of Othello. There's going to be a detour route. They're replacing a bridge. It's going to take 15 minutes extra both directions, so prepare, plan. That's 30 minutes extra round trip. So there's going to be a little delay on Highway 26 for road construction. Follow the detour route on Highway 26 right at Othello. I think it's Highway 7, State Route 17, and then 260, and then back on 26. So there you go. Game Day is, of course, in town already. What a huge welcome on Wednesday. Thousands of fans and students greeted Game Day as the coaches rolled up with a police escort. Actual Game Day, of course, is 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's live, even though they're not broadcasting the game. It's going to be on Fox. Cougs 5-1, Oregon 5-1, the Ducks, and we got the Washington Huskies, the Dogs, to thank for. Literally, right? M.I. Coug predicted this on the Wazoo Watch. I didn't predict. I just said, what if? What if Oregon wins, right? And what if, and then Game Day comes to town, and what if tickets go for $500? And I'm not saying, it was just intuition. It's all it is intuition. And you know what? The what if came true, and hey, here we are. And you know what? We are in for a great ride. So we have the Huskies to thank for, and of course, everybody's going to be watching our game this weekend. We should be, they should be invoicing us, or we should be invoicing them for the extra police and security. Are you kidding me? Why don't we just send that invoice to the University of Washington Athletic Department? Say, hey, guys, because you lost to Oregon, here's a $25,000, $35,000 bill for all the additional security. And, you name it. I mean, you're talking about from porta potties to we're going to talk about it. The Cubs going to be open. I mean, from 6 in the morning, Cubs going to have all the food all day long. But back to that Husky game in Eugene, of course, the Huskies, if they had converted a last-second field goal, 3 seconds left, they would have walked out of Eugene with a win, and game day would have not come to Pullman on Saturday. They wouldn't be here right now, right? So thank you, University of Washington. 15 years, the flag has been going on ESPN College Game Day every week for 15 years. And, of course, Kurt Herbstreit on Twitter says, hey, this is what Washington State fans have been waiting to hear this for 15 years. There's only one place we're going with game day, and that's Oregon at Washington State. We're going to see you in Pullman, and that's it. And then everything started to roll. I mean, I think the university was in shock itself. And so here we are. Now, all night Friday and all day Saturday, the Compton Union Building is going to be open. And 4 a.m., the college game, the pit, as they call it, at game day opens up. They're only going to take 500 people in the pit, and there is going to be security in the pit. So food service starts in the Cub at 4 a.m. 6 a.m. game day starts, 6 a.m. to 8:30. There's a ballroom in the Cub with viewing parties. We know that the Beasley Coliseum is going to be open for everybody that doesn't have a ticket. So there's 3 places really to watch the game if you don't have a ticket. And if you're unwilling to pay the $250 to $500, $700, and I don't blame you. And, go to the game. There's always guys with their hands up in the air with extra tickets. Now, something like this, generally not as easy, but I'm telling you, day in and day out, you can always go to games and there's guys selling tickets. And they're not necessarily hawking the tickets. They're just guys that have an extra ticket, and they don't want to take advantage, But there's 3 options if you don't have a ticket and you want to go to game day. So, by the way, we'll talk about that. But Lewis Alumni Center, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And the field house starts at 1:30. Cougville opens at 1:30. That's on Rogers Field. A lot of stuff going on. We talked about the Cougar Prawl around 2:20. I'm saying 1:45, 2 o'clock. So it's going to be just an amazing. Now, Beasley Coliseum is opening up at 3:30 for anybody without a game ticket. All right, so you can enjoy the big screen at Beasley. No food. No concessions are going to be open. You can bring anything in the Coliseum, but alcohol. Okay, the Spark opens up. That is a building, a learning center building called the Spark. A new building constructed last year. They're going to open up. You can hang out there and watch the game. Okay, 4:30 kick. 25 Washington State, 25 and 23 in both polls. Oregon's number 12. And, this is, here we go. I mean, there's 216 back to the flag, 216 consecutive shows. Courtesy, thank you, Tom Pounds. He inspired the idea in 2003. We got a lot of, really a large part to Mike Leach, really, for this happening. I mean, if you think about it, Gardner Minshew and everybody, it just one thing after another. Guest picker. It's not going to be Klay Thompson. He's got a game the next day, right? So Klay's not going to jump on a private plane and hit Pullman for the picker. I think it's going to be Bledsoe. I think Bledsoe is it would be just a great choice. But who knows? 1 million Cougar flags. Wednesday, like I mentioned, the trucks arrive, police escort, fire escort, thousands and thousands cheering on. How cool was that, right? And so weather's going to be great. And a lot of people thought this was not going to happen. Right? So, part of the crew is not going to be able to hang out for the game. Again, it's on Fox. So some of the guys, like Bear, is taking off. They're flying right out to do their commitments, their television commitments. So for their next, they're committed. So some of them won't be able to watch the game that are on the game day producers and the cast, but it's going to be, but hey, it is what it is. And they may not be able to really see a lot of everything. We've got the Ferdinand's not going to be, I don't think the Ferdinand's is going to be open up at 6 in the morning. There's no way. They're just not flexible like that. They usually shut down on Saturdays right at kickoff. So that Huckleberry Ripple, you guys, they won number 1 winner, speaking of ice cream, Huckleberry Ripple. Forget the cheese. I mean, come on, cheese is great. Last year, I read this article where Washington State won the last 3 years in a row the Big Scoop Award. It was a national ice cream trophy. And it was the department's dairy students, faculty, partnering up with WSU Creamery. They competed in the American Society of Animal Science ice cream competition. And it was held last year in July in Maryland. And they won the Big Scoop Award. And it was the Huckleberry Ripple. And it was 3 years in a row that they won that. So last year, I don't eat sugar, right? But I had to say, you know what? I just got to try it. And I'm telling you, man, I can't believe it. It was the most amazing ice cream I've ever had in my entire life. We've got to get a bowl or a cone over to those guys game day somehow for a Huckleberry Ripple, because that ice cream is just absolutely phenom, in my opinion. I've never had any better ice cream in the world, so that was just incredible. 2-point favorites. You know, we opened slightly as 2-point favorites over the Ducks. It's been back and forth, right? Back and forth. It's crazy. We've got a 10-game winning streak. We're 6-0 against the spread. Tom Pounds, thank you. You got to be feeling great. I know you're feeling great with this tradition. We hope you're going to hoist the flag up during the game. You get that privilege. Maybe I know they're going to do they're going to probably do a little tape on you or something they'll put on TV again. We've seen your YouTube video. It's great. I hope they do another segment on you or have you sit there live on game day. That would be so cool on ESPN. But Tom Pounds, thank you so much. Since 2003, you had that imagination. And you personally, apparently, you've waved the flag yourself 11 times. You've delegated, of course, all these years. And reading your reaction that you thought it would be fun for just 1 week, and then it just took off from there. And you really didn't have, Tom Pounds did not start with the notion that to bring game day to Pullman. That was not his intent. It just kind of took off from that, and he embraced it. The university is setting him up in a nice nice RV parking pass, tickets to the game. So they've already taken care of Tom Pounds, and John Johnson, the associate athletic director, gave Tom a call and says, "Hey, how many tickets do you need? Do you need an RV spot? What can we do to help you guys?" So Tom Pounds is in. He deserves it, man. That red carpet treatment, right? So how fun is that? It's number 217 on Saturday, number 217. And Tom, if you're listening, thank you so much. And consider, and maybe you've already done this, offloading the responsibilities to the Alumni Association. Why? Because expenses, they can easily raise it. I'm sure they have the money to manage this flag, maybe a team of people, a council of just going from week to week. Maybe the Alumni Association can take over. It sounds like you're partly retired, Tom, so it's a perfect project for the Alumni Association. I know that my wife, who has an MBA from Clemson, she just had an email this last week saying, "Hey, we know you're in Washington State. Would you mind waving the Clemson flag? Let us know if you're interested or not." And I was kind of blown away. And that was from the Alumni Association. So there's no reason why, if you feel like you want to delegate it, I think it would be a great fit if the alumni would take ownership over that. Bob Robertson is retiring. How about all the news all at once, right? We had game day announcement. Then we had Bob Robertson, of course, the late Paul Allen, passing away. We had three things, all within the same couple of hours or the same day. Monday was a very interesting day. Bob Robertson won't be behind the mic for his 590th time on Saturday. Bob has been what can you say, 52 years, 10 U.S. presidents. This has all been said before. You've probably read 260 Cougar victories. And, he's been with COUGS for more than half of a century, calling basketball, football. Gosh, he's done hockey. He's done so much. But, Bob says it's been great to be with you, Cougars, and all your meetings and get-togethers, and I hope to be with you again. I'm sure we will. So, Bob, you've been amazing. 89 years old. We all age. Nobody can escape, getting older every single day, every single year. And you've just done an incredible job. What a way to go out. And I hope you're able to just enjoy the game on Saturday. And I'd love to see the team win it for Bob Robertson. Frankly, what's more important, Bob Robertson or GameDay? And frankly, GameDay will be back at Pullman someday. But Bob Robertson, literally for 52 years, and he has day in and day out stuck with the Cougs. Years when we really didn't count much. Bob is not just his dedication, but his talent is unheard of. His talent is absolutely amazing. Bob Robertson is Bob Robertson, and he's just one of the greatest talents ever. So sorry to see you go. He's been 54 Apple Cups. He called the 98 and the 2002 Rose Bowls. Ruben Mays' 357-yard rushing game at Oregon, and 54 Apple Cups. So I think, Athletic Director Chun said they're going to honor Bob at a future home game, whether it's Cal or Arizona or Washington Huskies at Martin Stadium sometime. It's going to be in the month of November. There's going to be some sort of dedication, I hope. I know it's hard to travel, Bob. I know it's difficult to get around. It takes a lot of energy, but I hope you're able to make one more visit to Martin Stadium and be dedicated and have that ceremony for you in November. That would be great. Hey, we'll be right back to talk about the Oregon Ducks on this special Game Day edition right here next on the Podcast Coug.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the Podcast Coug Radio Network. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at podcastcoug.com.
Welcome back to the second half of the Podcast Coug, the Game Day Special Edition. I'm James Laurie. Glad you're back. And second half of the Podcast Coug, it's number 25, Washington State, Oregon, number 12, and it's going to be the North Showdown, right? Here it is. Both ranked teams, identical records, 5-1. 4:30 Saturday. Just can't wait. Cougs are favored by 2 points. That is, like I mentioned earlier, that's changing daily, back and forth. That's crazy, right? We know the Ducks, remember, pulled off that upset against the then seventh ranked Washington at Autzen, that winning touchdown in overtime, but the kicker was iced. 3 seconds left, right? 3 seconds on the clock. If you go back and look at that game, you just go the last quarter, 3 minutes left. I don't know, just the last 3 minutes of the game. Here it is, really 3 seconds left. All they had to do, Henry is the field goal kicker. All he had to do is chip shot. And of course, coaches are, Oregon's calling a timeout like twice. Huskies had one, and then I think there were a total of 3 timeouts. And every time Oregon's icing the kicker, and one of the whistles when it was blown on one of those timeouts from the coach from the sidelines, kicker just kicks a chip shot, goes right into the goalpost. Obviously the whistle was already, but went in perfect, iced the kicker, and here it is, 3 seconds, no more timeouts, and no good. Just unbelievable. I mean, absolutely a chip shot, meant to be. Crazy, meant to be. 99% of the time you're going to make that shot, or you're going to make that kick when you're, that's just a chip shot. And it just, it's just one of those things in life that when it is, you can call it predestined purpose, or you can call it whatever you want. You can call it fate, you can call it whatever, but I really believe that it sounds crazy because it's sports, but it was meant to be, because here we are, we're thanking Washington Huskies for that field goal loss. Now, of course, they lost it in overtime, and the Ducks prevailed, and here we are with game day on Saturday. So, just crazy how that happened. So, we're coming off of a bye week, right? Sometimes, and we'll talk about that bye week. But so we've got Justin Herbert. He's healthy this time. Quarterback, Oregon. Twice in the last 6 years, the Cougs have faced a Pac-12 quarterback picked number 1 in the draft. I mean, there was Cal's Jared Goff, and of course Stanford's Andrew Luck. So Herbert could make it 3 in 7 years of a number 1 draft. So crazy. We've got some great talent in Oregon on the quarterback. And so Cougs have won the last 3 meetings against Oregon, but the Ducks, they weren't playing with their last year they had, let's see here. Last year they had, let's see. So they had, we're going here. I'm skipping my notes here. They had the Heisman Trophy. They had Marcus Mariota in 2014. They had Jeff Locke, former Mariota backup that started. It was last year. That's right. It was the backup Jeff Locke, and then it was that was 2014. 2015 was Dakota Prukup, and then last year it was true freshman Braxton Burmeister, played in last year's game, right? So Herbert was out, and here we have him. Here he is again, and it's the best of the both quarterbacks in the Pac-12 by far. These are the 2 best quarterbacks. We've got Minshew, and you've got You've got Herbert. You got Herbert and Minshew facing on Saturday. Very, very exciting. So, there's not a lot of evidence to prove that teams coming off bye weeks have an edge. A lot of times it's not the case for Washington State. We have come off flat many times under Leach. We're 1-5 coming out of bye weeks. 1-5. We start out flat, and we can't have that. We've got to have strong momentum here. We might be healing up and healthy and all that, but in theory, the Cougs should take advantage of that rest, and the Ducks are coming away with that overtime, that victory over the Huskies. And not only that, it's the game day pandemonium, right? It's the pandemonium on the Palouse. I mean, that's an understatement, right? I mean, it is pandemonium right now and all the way through. And so can they come flying high off that Husky victory and then maintain momentum when we've got this pandemonium? Game day has been at Oregon twice, 2 or 3 times. They've been to Washington twice. So, it's the outpouring of the fans, and it's just absolutely amazing. So this could be a factor here, right? It's not easy at all. Now, we've got an update. Oregon's Sewell and Dallas Warmick didn't finish the UW game. All right, Sewell is absolutely out for Saturdays. Yep, Oregon's going to be without their best offensive player. He's going to be out for a while, maybe 6 weeks. Suffered an ankle injury against the Dogs. So hate to see these injuries, but that's football, right? So Sewell is out, and don't forget the Cougs are still riding their longest home winning streak in program history. That's 10 games, one of the longest, right? 10 games now, going back to the 2016 AC. So last time, Willie Taggart opened 10-7 lead against the Cougs after the first quarter in Eugene, and but we held them scoreless since. It was Luke Falk and Eric Powell's kick, and the Cougs reeled off 26 consecutive points after that first quarter, and it was the second and fourth quarters was our best. We ended up 33-10 last year. We've got them 3 years in a row. Let's go for number 4. By beating Oregon for the fourth time in 4 years. Cougs would be their longest win streak in program history against the Ducks. So that would be 5, right? So no, there'd be 4. It'd be the fourth time in 4 years, right? So we've done it. We've done this before. We've had four consecutive. It was like the years were like in the 50s, like 53 to 74, in the 70s, late 70s, 79, and then 84. There were streaks against Oregon, but the Ducks have a strong record when visiting college game day site. So Oregon's been in that scenario 7 times where they have gone to game day and they've won 5 out of 7 times. So we got a couple of assistants on staff at Oregon that came from Pullman, Mike Leach's staff, Joe Salve and ex-Coug running backs coach Jim Mastro. So both of those guys left Mr. Leach, and they are on the Oregon Ducks. So, of course, that's something that's really interesting. So here we are. It's going to be, you guys, this is huge. And so we're just going to have a great time. I think the university has got a lot that they're trying to achieve with the crowd control. I think they're going to be bringing in security. Let's make this a very safe environment, okay? Even if we win the game, which I think we're going to win. Podcast Coug is saying we're going to win. I think we're going to win. I feel it's not a feeling. I just think we're going to win. But I don't really want to see the negative, like sofas being burned on Colorado Avenue and stuff like that, cars being turned over. That's just crazy bad news. And you don't want parents to be seeing that. We want positive about Washington State. And it's just, it's not acceptable when you do things like that it's unsafe, especially when there could be some harm done. So on personal property. So fun to win, but let's keep it in check, right? So I think the university, they're opening up the Cub all day long, really early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning. Cub is going to be open up again on Saturday morning all the way till like midnight. They're going to have every single restaurant open. Bring in the food trucks, man. I mean, I'm talking about the distributors, Cisco, all those food guys better be ordering extra on all that food. And they're also, the school's also opening up a lot of buildings. There's a learning center. Sparks is open up for a viewing party. Beasley, of course, is open. There are buildings that are just going to be open to hang out. So this is unprecedented, guys. We've never seen this sort of crowd control ever in the history of the school. So there's never been this many people in Pullman, and we're just gonna, this is gonna be a great time, but let's make it safe for everybody. And game day is gonna come back. They'll be back, and we're believing Leach is gonna have another great 7 years with us, right? So. It should be fun. I hope to see you there. It's going to be a blast. That's it for this episode of the Podcast Coug. We're going to catch you next week. Until then, have a great game day and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the Podcast Coug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the Podcast Coug Radio Network. Find us at podcastcoug.com.